All right, Marrakech, get ready to be explored, because on this deep dive, we're going deep. Just for you. We're talking vibrant souks, historical landmarks, those majestic Atlas Mountains. So whether you're prepping for an actual trip or just, living vicariously through us today, get ready for your insider's guide to Marrakech.
I think what makes Marrakech so special is that there's something for everyone there. History, culture, adventure, it's all just kind of blended together.
It's a really dynamic destination. Okay, let's talk must-sees, the icons, the places you just can't miss when you're in Marrakech. I think we have to start with the Koutoubia Mosque.
Right, and it's more than just a pretty picture. I mean, it's a masterpiece of Almohad architecture going all the way back to the 12th century.
Wow, 12th century. And it's also the largest mosque in Marrakech, right?
Yeah, it is. And the minaret, you can actually see it from miles around. It's really iconic, a symbol of the city. And the gardens that surround the mosque, they offer a little bit of peace and tranquility away from the hustle and bustle.
Oh, that sounds so nice. I bet those gardens are beautiful. Okay, let's go to a totally different vibe. The Jardin Majorelle. I mean, those cobalt blue buildings, you see pictures everywhere, especially on Instagram. But there's a really fascinating story behind those colors.
Yeah, for sure. So the garden, it was created by a French painter, Jacques Majorelle, and the colors, those vibrant colors, they weren't just like a stylistic choice. Majorelle actually had synesthesia, which means he experienced colors through sounds and textures.
Oh, wow. So he wasn't just choosing those colors, he was kind of experiencing them in a different way.
Right, which makes those gardens even more incredible. It's a sensory feast.
Well, speaking of sensory experiences, we can't forget about Jama El Fana Square. I mean, this is the heart and soul of Marrakech. Get ready for full-on sensory overload, but in a good way.
For sure. Jamal Arena, that's the energy of Marrakech. During the day, you'll see snake charmers, storytellers, henna artists. Yeah. And then as the sun sets, it becomes like a massive open-air food market. You can smell the spices. You can smell the grilled meats. It's amazing.
Oh, man. I can practically smell it now.
Yeah.
Okay, shifting gears again. Let's talk about the Bahia Palace.
Yeah, Bahia Palace. It's like a history lesson all in itself. It was built in the 19th century by Si Musa, who was a powerful vizier. And each courtyard actually represents a different part of his vast empire. It's a really great example of Moroccan craftsmanship, the tile work especially.
It sounds gorgeous. And the serene courtyards and the gardens, it seems like a real glimpse into Moroccan heritage. But our Marrakech adventure doesn't end within the city walls. Let's talk about day trips, adventures that will take you beyond the city.
Absolutely, and I think for those that are drawn to scenery, you have to go to the Atlas Mountains. Just imagine going from those bustling souks to these really serene, majestic landscapes. And tucked away in these mountains are these traditional Berber villages.
I've heard that the Ourika Valley is particularly beautiful.
Yeah.
Waterfalls, lush greenery. You can experience authentic Berber culture there, the food, and you can hike. So many things to do.
Oh yeah, it's stunning. And then, if you're drawn to the ocean, you have to go to Essaouira.
Essaouira. Oh, tell me more about that.
It's like a coastal paradise.
Yeah.
Windswept beaches, a really charming Medina. It has this Arabic and Portuguese blend to it, which is really interesting. And it's got a thriving art scene.
Okay, so after the energy of Marrakech, Essaouira is where you go to unwind.
Exactly. Get those coastal vibes, eat some fresh seafood. Perfect.
Okay, one more landscape we can't overlook, Agafay Desert.
Oh, yeah, the Agafay Desert. So, unlike the Sahara, this is a rocky landscape, and it's just outside of Marrakech. If you want adventure, you can go camel riding, quad biking, and even stargazing.
Amazing. Marrakech has everything. Okay, but let's get to adventure. Let's talk about hot air balloons.
Yes, imagine this. You're soaring above the Atlas Mountains. The sun is rising. You can see the mountains and the desert below. You might even spot a few Berber villages as you float by. And then you land and have breakfast in a Berber village.
Oh, that is definitely going on my bucket list. I am obsessed with hot air balloons.
Okay, we can't talk Marrakech without mentioning camel trekking. That's like the quintessential Moroccan experience, right? It is. And it really connects you to the landscape and the traditional desert lifestyle. It's so peaceful. Just the gentle rhythm of the camel ride as you explore the Agafay Desert or the Palmyra. It's really special.
I love it. It's like stepping back in time. But what about for those who are looking for an adrenaline rush, something a little more thrilling?
Then it's quad biking, for sure. Quad biking is perfect for that. Feel the wind in your hair as you navigate those rugged landscapes in the Agafay Desert or in other scenic trails.
Okay, so we've talked about the sights, we've talked about adventure. Now let's immerse ourselves in the culture. And I think the best way to do that is through a cooking class.
I agree. Moroccan cuisine is incredible. And a cooking class is more than just learning recipes. It's about the history and the culture behind each dish. You learn the art of slow cooking, the spices. You'll be using techniques that have been passed down for generations.
I can just imagine myself in a bustling market, picking out all those fresh ingredients, and then learning to prepare a delicious tagine from scratch. Oh, and what about the tea ceremony? We mentioned it briefly before, but I want to learn more.
Ah, yes. Tea in Morocco is a way of life. It's an art form. It's all about hospitality.
So paint us a picture. What can people expect when they're invited to a tea ceremony in Marrakech?
Okay, so imagine this. You're welcomed into this beautifully decorated space. There are plush cushions, intricate carpets. You smell the mint in the air. And then the host prepares the mint tea, pouring it from up high, which is a sign of respect, to create all those bubbles. And you drink it out of these small, beautiful glasses. It's about enjoying the moment, the conversation.
It sounds very peaceful. Okay, what about for those of us who like to bring home, tangible memories from our travels? What about craft workshops in Marrakech?
Yeah, Marrakech is known for its artisans. You can go to workshops and see how they make things, even learn some techniques yourself.
So let's say, for example, I'm fascinated by pottery. What kind of experience could I have in Marrakech?
You could visit a workshop in the heart of the Medina, and you would see artisans shaping the clay into tagines or bowls or decorative pieces using those age-old techniques, those traditions.
Wow, to see that in person? That would be incredible. What about for those who are interested in leatherwork or textiles?
Well, if you're interested in leather, you can visit a tannery. That's where they transform the animal hides into leather. And you'll see them create bags, belts, shoes, all of it.
Wow, that's amazing.
And for textiles, there are workshops for weaving and embroidery. You can learn how they make those Moroccan rugs and carpets, all the patterns, all the techniques.
I bet it takes so much patience. Okay, let's get to some practical
A
details.
great idea. And I think one of the most important things is if you're going to do these tours, book in advance,
Yeah, that makes sense.
especially if you're going during peak season. Not only will you guarantee yourself a spot, but you'll probably have more choices. You can go with a smaller group or even a private tour.
That's a great point. You don't want to miss out on something you really want to do. And speaking of experiences, let's talk about respecting local customs.
Yes, this is very important. Morocco has such a rich, vibrant culture, and it's important to be mindful. You want to dress modestly, especially when visiting religious sites. And greetings are important too. A simple salam alaikum, which means peace be upon you, goes a long way to show respect.
It's all about being a considerate traveler. All right, last but not least, if someone's planning their trip, what's the best time to visit Marrakech?
So spring and autumn are best. The temperatures are really pleasant then. Summers are hot and winters are generally mild, but spring and autumn are ideal.
Good to know. Okay, so there you have it, your insider's guide to Marrakech. Must-see sites, adventures, culture, and some practical advice. But before we wrap up part one of our deep dive on Marrakech, I want to leave you with a question.
Yeah, what sparks your curiosity the most about Marrakech? What's captivating your imagination? Hold on to that as we get into the heart of Marrakech in part two. Welcome back to our Marrakech deep dive. We've done so much already, the souks, the architecture, we even went on a hot air balloon ride.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the people, the culture. That's what really makes Marrakech special.
Absolutely. We talked about those cooking classes earlier and how they're a great way to immerse yourself in the food. I'm curious, what can people actually expect? Like, what's that experience like?
Okay, so picture this. You're starting your day at a local market. It's colorful. There are all these amazing smells. You'll even learn how to haggle. And you get to pick out all the freshest ingredients, vegetables, spices, herbs, everything you need for your tagine.
Oh, it sounds amazing, like a feast for the senses before you even start cooking.
Exactly. And then you go to the traditional Moroccan kitchen. Often it's in a riad, which is like a traditional house. And you have an experienced chef teaching you, sharing family recipes, recipes that have been passed down for generations.
It's like a living cookbook. What kind of dishes would people learn to make?
Well, you might learn how to make a tagine. That's a classic. Slow-cooked stew, meat, vegetables, all those spices. Or maybe couscous, that's a staple. And maybe even pastilla, that's a pastry, it's savory, with pigeon meat and almonds and spices.
Wow, that sounds incredible. Okay, let's go from the kitchen to something a little more relaxing, the Moroccan tea ceremony. We touched on it before, but tell me more.
Ah, the tea ceremony. This is a big part of Moroccan culture. It's about hospitality. It's a way of life.
Okay, so what happens? What can our listener expect?
Okay, so imagine you're welcomed into a room, very beautiful decorations, plush cushions, carpets, the smell of mint is in the air, and the host will prepare the mint tea very carefully. and they pour it from high up to make a frothy layer that's a sign of respect.
Mhm.
You'll drink out of small decorated glasses. It's all about being present, enjoying the moment, the conversation.
I love that. Okay, and then what about for those who want to bring home something tangible, something to remember their trip by? Didn't you say Marrakech is known for its craft
It
workshops?
is, absolutely. Marrakech is full of these incredible artisans, people practicing skills that have been passed down, for generations. And at these workshops, you can actually see them work and even learn some of their techniques.
I love that. So what if, say, someone was really interested in pottery? What could they do in Marrakech?
Well, you could go to a pottery workshop. They're often in the Medina, and you'd see the artisans making these beautiful things out of clay, like tagines, bowls, decorations, all using these traditional techniques.
Wow, that would be something else. What about other crafts, like leatherwork or textiles?
If you like leather, you can go to a tannery. That's
Mm.
where they make the leather. And you'll see them making bags, belts, shoes.
It's incredible how they make those things.
And for textiles, there are workshops for weaving and embroidery. So you can learn how they made those amazing Moroccan rugs, all the patterns, the techniques. It's really fascinating.
So much skill. Okay, any practical tips for getting around?
Well, the Medina, it's the heart of Marrakech, but it's easy to get lost. It's all these narrow streets, alleys, very maze-like.
I can imagine I'd be lost for sure. I love to just wander and explore.
So a good map or a GPS, that's your best friend in the Medina. But also, don't be afraid to ask for directions. People are very friendly and helpful.
That's good to know. I've heard that haggling is a big part of the culture there. Any tips for that? I think a lot of people get nervous about that.
Yeah, haggling is part of the experience, especially in the souks. So don't be afraid to negotiate, but be respectful. Start by offering like half the price and
Yeah.
see what happens.
So it's a little bit of a game, a back and forth.
Exactly.
Huh.
But it's fun. You'll get the hang of it.
Hmm.
But also, if you don't want to haggle, there are stores with fixed prices.
That's good. What about money?
So the currency is the dirham. It's best to exchange money at a bank or an official bureau. Don't do it on the street.
Okay, good to know. And safety. I mean, is Marrakech a safe city?
Yeah, generally it's safe.
Yeah.
But, you always have to be aware of your surroundings. Keep your valuables safe. Don't walk alone at night. Watch out for pickpockets. Basic stuff.
Right, common sense. What about language?
It's definitely helpful to know a few phrases. Even simple things like, hello, thank you, please. It shows respect.
It goes a long way. Any other tips?
Just embrace the slower pace of life. Don't rush. Take it all in. Talk to people. You'll discover amazing things.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in trying to do everything.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about ethical travel, responsible tourism, all of that.
Yeah, it's important. As travelers, we need to be mindful of our impact.
So how can our listener be a responsible tourist in Marrakech?
One of the most important things is where you stay and who you do tours with. Choose places that are sustainable. Look for eco-friendly ryads, hotels that support the local community, and tour companies that do the same, that employ locals and, give back.
So making choices that are good for the environment and the people? Exactly. And when you're exploring, be respectful of local customs. Dress modestly. Ask permission before you take someone's picture. Just be considerate.
Be a good guest. What about shopping?
Support local artisans. Buy things directly from them. Haggle fairly. And definitely don't buy things made from endangered species.
So you want to make sure that your money is going back to the community, that you're helping preserve those traditions.
Exactly. And little things matter too. Conserve water. Don't waste things. And maybe try walking or biking instead of taking a taxi.
Yeah, that's good for the environment.
Okay.
Okay, we've talked about practicalities, ethical considerations. Now let's talk history, the culture, all that.
Marrakech is a fascinating city. It's got so much history. So many different cultures have influenced it.
All right, give me a history lesson. Where did it all begin?
So Marrakech was founded in 1062 by the Almoravids. They were a Berber dynasty. They made it their capital. And it quickly became this hub, a center for trade and culture and Islamic scholarship.
It sounds like it was destined for great things right from the start.
And its location on those trans-Saharan trade routes, that helped a lot. It attracted merchants, scholars, travelers from all over. Imagine caravans, all these goods.
Wow, I can only imagine that energy, all those people coming together.
It was a real melting pot. You had Berber, Arab, and African cultures. It was incredible. And you can still see that today.
Yeah, that rich blend. So you mentioned the Almoravids. Who else was involved in shaping the city?
Well, after that, it was the Almohads, another Berber dynasty. They built some of the most iconic landmarks, the Koutoubia Mosque, for example.
And then over time, each dynasty kind of added their own layer to the city until we got the Marrakech we have today.
Exactly. Then it was the Marinids. They were all about prosperity. The arts flourished under them. They built palaces, madrasas, which are Islamic schools, and gardens.
It's amazing they all contributed.
And even when there were hard times, political upheaval, Marrakech always had that magic. It always bounced back.
Wow. So from all of that history to now, how would you define the cultural identity of Marrakech today?
Marrakech is a fascinating mix of traditional and modern. You have these ancient rituals right alongside a contemporary art scene. It's pretty cool. Like, you could be drinking tea in a riad that's centuries old and then walk out and find a gallery showing modern art.
I love that. It's what makes Marrakech so unique.
And it's everywhere, like even the souks. You have all these traditional crafts and spices.
Yeah.
But then tucked away are these modern boutiques, designer shops,
You never know what you're going to find.
and the food. It's the same. A real blend of old and new. Traditional dishes, but then you also have these modern interpretations.
And the music.
Oh, the music. So vibrant. You have everything from Nala music, very spiritual, to modern electronic beats, traditional Berber music, contemporary Moroccan music. It's all there.
It sounds amazing. And the art scene.
Also amazing.
Yeah.
Traditional and modern, it's all happening. You have calligraphy, ceramics, paintings, sculptures, installations, galleries, studios. It's very exciting.
Wow. So much to see and do. But let's be real for a second. What about tourism? How has tourism impacted Marrakech? I mean, there's always two sides to that coin.
You're right. Tourism can be good, it can be bad, depends how it's managed.
So let's talk pros and cons.
So the good, it's brought jobs, helped the economy, it's helped keep those traditional crafts alive, and it's made Marrakech this global destination.
Yeah, it's undeniable that tourism has had a positive impact on the economy, provided opportunities.
Yeah, but there are also downsides. Like all those tourists, it puts a strain on resources, there's overcrowding, and sometimes the culture can feel commodified.
So it's about finding a balance.
Absolutely, it's got to be sustainable. We need to make sure tourism benefits everyone, that it doesn't destroy the culture.
So responsible tourism.
Yes, and everyone needs to be involved. The community, tour operators, the government, and of course tourists themselves.
Well said. Okay, we're going to move into our final part in a minute, but first, I have a question for our listener.
I like it. So as you've been listening to us, what stood out to you the most? What's piqued your interest? Think about that as we get into the final part of our Marrakech deep dive.
Okay, welcome back to our deep dive on Marrakech. We've seen the sights, we've heard the sounds, we've tasted the flavors, we've felt the soul of this incredible city. But now, and I know this might sound a little, I don't know, philosophical maybe, but I want to talk about something that's always fascinated me. The power of travel, how it can change you. What can a trip to Marrakech offer beyond just a vacation?
I think Marrakech has this ability, it takes you somewhere else, not just geographically, but it takes you to a different version of yourself. It changes the way you see things, it opens your mind, it changes you, sometimes forever.
I love that. So how can a trip to Marrakech do that? What are some of the ways it can impact travelers on like a really deep level?
Well, for one thing, it forces you out of your comfort zone. It awakens your senses, it challenges the way you think about things. It exposes you to different ways of life.
Totally. I mean, I'm thinking about those souks, the customs, the language. You have to adapt. And, it reminds me of this time I went to this remote village in Nepal. I was so out of my element, but I learned that I was stronger than I thought, more resilient.
Exactly. And that's what travel does. It shows you things about yourself. And then, when you immerse yourself in the culture, you start to see the world differently. You see different perspectives, different values.
It's that shift in perspective that I think is so important. You start to question things, your beliefs, your priorities. You realize the world is so much bigger than you thought.
Right. And you might even start to appreciate all those differences, all that diversity. That's what makes the world so interesting.
And when you connect with the people, the people of Marrakech, you feel their hospitality, you see those traditions, that history, it reminds you that we're all connected.
It's powerful. And those connections, those are the things you remember.
Totally. So stepping outside your comfort zone, seeing new perspectives, connecting with people, what other transformative experiences does Marrakech offer?
Well, it can also be a journey of self-discovery. When you're exploring the souks, the ruins, the desert, you start to think, you start to reflect.
It forces you to slow down. I get that feeling when I'm hiking in the mountains. You're surrounded by nature.
Yeah.
And you can just be with your thoughts.
Exactly. And you might start to ask yourself questions, questions you haven't thought about before. You might rethink your goals. You might just appreciate the moment, being present.
It's so easy to forget to do that.
And Marrakech, it's got this unique energy. It's tranquil, but also vibrant. It's the perfect place for that kind of inner journey.
Okay, so we've explored a lot about Marrakech, and we've talked about how travel can change us, how it can be this transformative experience. As we wrap up our deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
If I could give one piece of advice, it would be to approach your trip to Marrakech or anywhere with an open mind. Be curious, be open to new things, and let yourself be changed by the experience.
That's great advice. It's not about checking things off a list. It's about being present, connecting with the culture, letting the journey shape you.
Exactly. Remember, travel is not just about the destination, it's about the journey itself. The lessons you learn, the memories you make, and who you become along the way.
So well said. And that's it for our Marrakech deep dive. Keep exploring, keep learning, keep seeking out those experiences that challenge you, that inspire you, and maybe, just maybe, one day, your path will lead you to Marrakech. Until then, safe travels and happy exploring.